Hi, this is Joe Jackson, the interviewer, not the singer, speaking from the twilight zone of lockdown land during the coronavirus crisis in 2020. What you're about to hear is the first 20 minutes or so from the Joe Jackson tapes revisited Eamon Dunphy, a 1-hour radio show I made in 2018. However, for reasons that are too legal to disclose, the show was never broadcast by RTE, Ireland's national radio station, who had commissioned the series. It's a shame, because many people claim that the 1996 interview I did with Eamo was the best he gave and the best I ever did. It is available as an ebook called Eamon Dunphy Unleashed, and it will be available in full as a text and audio on my new website, joejacksoninterviewer.com. In the meantime, enjoy this fragment. Take it from me, and maybe the man himself, Eamon Dunphy never did an interview quite like the one we did in 1996. Nor did I. For one thing, it came about in a manner that was as colourful as he and his language is, as you'll see. Either way, back in 96, I did weekly interviews for the Irish Times, bi-weekly interviews as with this one for Hot Press, and I'd begun to do interviews for RTE Radio 1, having hosted the Summer Art Show while Mike Murphy was on holiday. It must have been hell for anyone who hated my interviews. Happily, Dunphy didn't. Or so he tended to say, loudly in public. For example, one particular Friday night, we both were out on the tear in Dublin City, in separate social groups I hasten to add, and he roared in my direction this ridiculous line: "You haven't arrived in Irish cultural life until you've been interviewed by Joe Jackson." Then Dunphy said, "Interview me, you," and added a word that wasn't runt. And so, if only to stop the guy making a holy show of me like that in public, I finally agreed to do the interview. In fact, over a 2-day period, we set on tape no less than 11 hours of material, and Eamo turned out to be a gracious and a giving interviewee. During another interview 4 years later, this time for the Sunday Independent, he compared that first experience to participating in Professor Anthony Clare's BBC radio programme In the Psychiatrist's Chair, swore he'd never do such an interview again, and didn't, even with me. But in this show, I want to focus primarily on, you guessed it, the psychology of a multidimensional man who too often, in the public eye, is reduced to one dimension, or no dimensions at all. That said, what most people seem to remember from the 1996 interview is Eamo ripping into public figures in the same way he'd savaged them during his tenure as what even he himself has come to call a boot boy for the Sunday Independent. Eamon paid a price for playing that role, as did the newspaper. So let's hear some of Eamo's greatest hits, or misses perhaps. The first exchange was used against him during a case in the High Court.
Did you ever threaten to break Fintan O Toole's legs?
No, I never did.
I heard you had.
No, I
You made a phone call to him.
No,
and said,
I
"Watch
did
your
make a
ass.
phone call. No,
Watch your back or else.
No, I tell you
don't know
exactly.
where you're walking.
No, I rang him up when he wrote a piece about Anne Harris and Angus, which was vicious. And I said, Fintan, you know this isn't true. And this is an attack on a woman. It's sexist. I mean, his theory was that Owen Harris ran the paper.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
including
yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
If you-
That was all brainwashed.
If only you fucking knew. I mean, Angus thinks he's a dipstick. And I rang him up before I wrote the piece. And that I said, Fintan, why did you do that? And he started to justify himself. What I said to him once he started dissembling, I said, Fintan, I'm going to fucking have your baby next fucking Sunday. And he said, don't threaten me. I said, I'm not, I promise you. And I did it.
Oh, yeah,
and I did it. It's a very skillful piece of work. I was able to write the line,
Yeah, I know.
Fintan O Toole told a lie. If you were to level the accusation at Sunday Independent about depiction of travellers, take that accusation, lay it on Roddy Doyle and his depiction of the Dublin working class as moronic. What Roddy Doyle has successfully done, he's offered caricatures of working class experience, given them dialogue and sold them abroad. He's also sold them to the middle classes here. I mean, if you read Dickens, I mean, some of it is the squalor and all of that is there, but there are also recognisable heroic characters even. There's nothing like that in Roddy Doyle's work.
You were not serious about Seamus Heany, we know that.
I was serious
No,
about
you
Seamus
You
Heany.
can't be serious describing his poetry as mediocre, semi-literate claptrap, and his output is patently bogus.
The thing about him is important. He's a creation of American academia. He is primarily an academic. His poetry doesn't stand, scrutiny. It's whimsical. It avoids the big questions about existence in the way that Kavanagh or Auden or Larkin, or Betjeman used to be criticised for being too lightweight, too populist. Betjeman is like Shakespeare compared to this guy. I don't like Bono's preaching and proselytising. But I see Larry. I mean, Larry. I saw Larry once there at dinner for the Irish team and sat with him and had a few drinks with him, and he's a smashing guy. And Adam's grand guy, you know. I think Bono is superstar, but there's a cure for that. Gay Byrne should have stopped. He's gone through the same post-achievement syndrome as Jack John. He should have stopped, should have given it up, gone with dignity. He's made a complete fool of himself. Yeah, you see, those guys, it's over for them.
For who?
For Pat Kenny and Gay Byrne. It's over.
Why?
Yesterday. No one listens to them. No one's.
But they're still... Yeah, when this was suggested by the statistical survey recently, they quickly came out to say,
Joe,
we're still the most popular people in Ireland.
Because they're the only show in town. They're the only national radio. They're the only national television. RTE will be a dead station in 5 years' time. They'll have no listeners.
Have you any vested interest in a forthcoming station?
I certainly have not, because most of the people that are bidding, including the Irish Times, I'm on the blacklist.
Blacklists or not, within a few years, Eamon Dunphy, who during this interview said he saw as vital the establishment of other national radio and TV stations to compete with RTE, would be broadcasting on the newly formed Radio Ireland and had a TV show on TV3. But OK, let's get back to the start of the 1996 interview, which I deliberately kicked off with a set of provocative questions. I've never believed in the predictable premise of keeping your hard questions to last. But first, for those who don't know the man's biography, here are a few facts. He was born in Drumcondra, County Dublin, in 1945, attended St Patrick's National School, began playing football at the age of 8 or so, left Ireland at 15 to become an apprentice at Manchester United, never made the first team, but he did play midfield for York City, Millwall, Charlton Athletic, Reading, Shamrock Rovers and the Republic of Ireland. Eamon then returned to Dublin in 1970, and after retiring from football he began writing about the sport for the Sunday Tribune. Later again he wrote about football and current affairs for the Sindo. Dunphy has been married twice and is the father of 2 children. By the way, he and I chatted on tape for about 45 minutes before I said, let's go.
The response as to why you are perceived to have so much vitriol in your writing and in your nature. A knee-jerk rebel in adolescent sense, outsider since childhood, self-conscious about height, spindly frame, poverty.
Definitely outsider since childhood. Definitely nothing to do with height. I'm not that small. Okay. I'm taller than John Giles. I'm as tall as George Best.
All right. Okay, that's that out.
Spindly. No. I don't have any problem pulling birds, Joe. Have a look. So that's not it. What were the others?
Poverty.
Certainly very much a formation of my character was my childhood. It wasn't poverty per se, but Drumcondra, as you know, wasn't a poverty area. Right. Drumcondra was genteel, lower middle class. But we lived in a tenement house in Drumcondra. My mother had to fight for...
Yeah, I do want to go in. Don't tell me that.
Okay.
I think that was...
Yeah, my mother was a great... It's the core of the formation of where I'm coming from. Yeah.
Okay, the second sense of why you have this kind of whatever is in your nature. Failed footballer, failed to make it as a coach, probably applied to the manager of the Irish team, was told to fuck off.
None of those things are true. Played for Ireland 23 times. I was a good journeyman pro in a very good, what would now be first division, what was then second division team. The only job I had in coaching was coaching London University for a year, which was the most successful year in their history.
But aspirations beyond that were not realised in coaching?
Well, no. I mean, in fact, I came home with John Giles because I wanted to come home and live in Ireland.
Right. To coach, though? Did you want to continue what you had been doing for that year?
Oh, I was very ambitious to coach and teach. Right. I mean, I thought that was my true vocation. Yeah. The trouble was that because I'd been an agitator for reform in soccer, in through the union and outside the union, because I'm not an institution person, a lot of club chairmen just said, well, you can have nothing to do with him.
So it wasn't your failure per se, it was the failure of the system to adapt?
Well, I'd be perfectly honest with you about everything. What actually happened was I came home with John Giles, and he was then the big thing in English coaching and management. And we came back, first of all, because we wanted to live here, and secondly, because we knew the English soccer system was so corrupt, so spivish, so impossible to work in without corrupting yourself.
Okay, all right.
And we wanted to try and create something new. A year into it, back here, I realised you can't do this. We wanted to create a great club in Dublin. Right. And the league
for
of Ireland was a disaster.
Reasons? Was it as...
No, it was just... Right. John wasn't popular here. He's a great guy, but somehow an impression of him as a mean-spirited, probably because he was to do at Leeds, and the testimonial match here, which was 0-0, and everyone thought they were ripped off, and he wasn't good with the press, and so on. And so...
And were you? Had you got a fandom? Had you got a street following? Had you got kind of
No, I was just a sort of second division footballer who'd played on a lot of losing Irish teams.
Okay,
I didn't. When I finished playing in England, the Times offered me a job, soccer correspondent.
All right.
The London Times. So it was a big thing to turn down.
Okay.
And I turned it down to come back and work in the League of Ireland. I realised I made a mistake. And after 6 months here, Millwall actually did offer me the job, which is the job I'd always cherished.
But you didn't want to go back.
Well, I said, how could I do it? My kids had come.
Right.
I'd committed myself to John, and I said no. So I certainly wasn't a failed coach.
But is there a sense that your aspirations in that direction were frustrated, were crippled, were fucked by other forces?
It's certainly true to say that my aspirations in that area were thwarted by a little bit by circumstances, but the Millwall thing offered me the chance to do that if I wanted to. But I didn't, and I'm a fatalist. I'm an existentialist. I believe in doing your thing. Right. In other words, don't plan too much.
An existentialist who believes in God?
The Buddha, not Sky God.
All right.
I believe in Buddha. I mean, God's just a colloquial use of the word. I'd be a Buddhist.
But I want to get that clear.
I believe in the karma.
Right, okay. So that coach question is not necessarily...
No, it's a valid question, because I think a lot of people think
it.
Yeah, a lot of guys think that thing. And I mean, Jack, in his own clever way, portrayed me as a bitter little man. Because I hadn't done all these things. No, but I think it has this validity in this sense, that when I'm writing about soccer, when I'm making an assessment or a judgment about the game and about how well a manager's doing or a player's doing, I think it's not a frustrated guy who couldn't do it. I think it's a guy who can see it so much that your judgments are very severe. So I think there's a core of truth in that. I think it's like, for example...
So you're as severe as a coach would be on the pitch?
Well, yeah, and I'm say criticising Jack against... Excuse me. You know, it's like this idea that if I was a bollocks, or if I was wrong...
All right.
The first guys who would know it would be the players. You ask Kevin Moore, and you ask Ronnie Whelan, you ask Paul, David O'Leary, they're all my friends. But I never stick them up front, because I don't get them into trouble. So Jack can go around on the late show, the players hate him,
I'll go in more to that. But
the thing is,
the core question of
the core question about that
is, as a...
If your judgment is good and it's sound, the players will respect you. That's a great compliment to a journalist, or any critic, in any business, because it means that although you're going against the general trend critically, you're making the bridge between the fan and the dressing room. Yeah. And when I have been over the top, say criticising Liam Brady when he was playing, or maybe a couple of times with Jack, Mick McCarthy, when I have been so severe and unforgiving, and the language has probably been inappropriate or too emotive. Yeah, I mean, there's very few players I've criticised. It's generally very, very few. But there have been players like McCarthy and Brady, two examples. Yeah. It's a reflection of the intensity of feeling and the intensity of involvement of someone who really knows a thing and really loves it. I mean, it's my passion. I love soccer. I love sport, actually.
Okay, third part. Thank you for that very detailed answer. Okay, third one of reading I heard is that you are ill, you have back trouble, your liver's fucked, you're hooked and barreled, vitriol in writing reflects the poison in your system. Yo, Eamon, run that by me again.
No, I'm not. I have a bad back. That's true. That's true, and but it's not as bad as it was. It used to be chronic. I had a successful operation, but I do have a bad back.
Which stems from what? I mean, was it an accident? Okay.
No, football, wear and tear. So I was very light. Yeah. I was a stone lighter than anyone else playing the Football League. So at the end of it, I had chronic back trouble. I still have kind of serious back trouble.
All right.
Yeah, and so I have a lot of pain.
Right, so hooked on Valium, vitriol based on poison in system.
Never taken Valium in my life. Vitriol, no.
Are you drug addicted because of the back? I'm not drug addicted. I mean, do you have to take stuff every day to kind of kill the pain?
I take the odd couple of soaps, yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
That's it?
I'm not addicted to anything. No, not at all. My liver... I'm a modest drinker. My average daily consumption would be 2 glasses of wine. I drink a bottle of Beck's when I'm out.
Endless bottles of?
No, not at all. I usually have 3 bottles of Beck's. Then if I go to dinner, I have a couple of bottles of wine. And what I do is about once a fortnight, say, you'd know this for sure.
Blowout.
Yeah, big time. Because I do sort of, the work is intense. and some of it, like, I give a lot, and then I need to go boom. But I know exactly what I'm doing.
Right.
I drink, I smoke a joint, I fucking go for it, and I come home at 6. I love walking home 6 in the morning when there's no one on the streets and it's dawn, and I just love that walk from Joy's, and I'm coming home and I'm fucking happy as Larry. But I know that there's guys out there who think I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, guys have written to me, look, we know you have a problem. I am actually, and always have been, quite a modest drinker. So my liver's in good shape.
And what about suggesting that you're so stoned so often you don't give a fuck about anything either?
Never. I've always smoked dope. We never smoke in the house. Ever.
Why?
Because we're happy. Well, man, we're a fantastic relationship with Jane.
Right, okay.
And, like, Jane and the woman I used to live with before, Inga, who I'm still great friends with. I mean, we have a very happy home. And it's cool. And the only time I smoke dope, Joe, I'll tell you when I smoke dope. When I'm walking from the Shelburne or the Stamper with Pearson down to Lily's, right? I smoke a joint to keep it going. And to annoy Pearson, he won't fucking smoke.
Have you tried the other drugs?
No.
No.
I've had a couple of hits of coke.
And what does that do for you?
Didn't do anything for me, actually.
Did you ever use a working writing?
Oh, no. Never. I never drink the day before I write. I get up in the morning at 4. It's over by 12. Funny enough, I'm reading an Auden biography there, and I didn't realise until I got the page wherever I am that he was a Benzedrine addict. He used Benzedrine to get him up.
So is Tennessee Williams. Tennessee Williams took a ridiculous concoction in the morning to get writing. Benzedrine, injection, a drink, a mix, a cocktail, and then go to the typewriter. Horrible syndrome to get kind of hooked on that.
Well, whatever gets you through the day, you know. It's not for me to prescribe for other people, except for myself. I have that sort of old thing from sport that I go to bed at sort of 9 the night before I write. I don't drink. I don't go out. I don't even mix. I won't even go to dinner because it gets me head fuzzled up.
You don't go to a brothel?
No, I don't know. I don't know any brothels, actually. I'm sure they're around.
Well, you told that story last time about the team going to a brothel.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I ran.
The night before.
Yeah. I mean, extraordinary. That was my innocence. I mean, that was my first match. I was shocked. I still am shocked.
We can talk about that later. But the other section, Coke didn't give you any hit, and you've stayed away from. What about acid and all that in the student rebel days?
Well, we didn't have it, you see. That's why I'm so fucking daft now. I mean, we were in the monastery then playing football. So all of that stuff, no. No, I feel that the thing you got to exercise that is your brain will not actually, at the desk, function right if you're on anything. Your own innate resource, your own spirit, your own brain must be protected from that. I think it is actually diminishing returns at some stage, bound to come into it.
But there's a whole network of people out there who are getting increasingly involved. There's a lot of DJs, there's a lot of rock and roll writers, there's a lot of journalists, there's a lot of TV people who probably, band managers, the whole shot. I mean, it is a strong of people who believe the opposite to what you're saying, that they operate at optimum level when they're on their lines of coke.
What I have is passion, and my passion is my drug.
And you're connected with the spirit, which a lot of...
Very, very, very much so.
Because I've often found drugs disconnect people.
They do, yeah.
They don't want to be connected with the spirit.
No, well, that's exactly right. I have a very good friend who's in a very high-powered job in England, in publishing, and he's on Prozac all the time.
All right.
He's a young guy. It's astonishing.
They don't want that root connection.
No, but I love it. See, for me, it's all about staying in touch with your real feelings, not allowing them to be corroded over by cynicism, experience, contact with bad fuckers, seductive promises that you'll be an important man, all that stuff. No. Roots, soul, that's my thing. So that's my thing.
With occasional blowouts to kind of keep the balance.
And the blowout is my biggest blowout, Joe, is this. I'm never drunk. I'm always laughing. Because I it's so serious, the gig. Like, you're doing your... It takes me a week to work out a column, right? And then I just go out and I have a lot of fun.
Frivolity.
Right? Yeah, absolute total frivolity. Goading guys, winding them up, messing, flirting, looping around the place. And there's a lot of nice people that you and I know out there, like, say, Gene, whatever. And you can't really enjoy it if you're legless.
But you're pretty much, what you've just described is still very much an outsider to everyday society in every way.
Yeah, but
like, you work from home, you go out when you choose to, you don't connect with the people you don't feel you want to be connected with, you don't want to be connected with, so it's very much still retaining your maverick or outsider status.
Yeah, I mean, I am a complete loner. I'm a very cold person.
What does cold person?
Yeah. behind all of that, I'm a cold person.
Well, how can you be passionate and cold? Passionate about writing and you don't give a fuck about people?
I like a certain kind of person. I like people who are unconventional. You know, I mean, I've got friends like Pearson Say or McGuinness,
Right.
Tony Cronin, who's a great friend of mine.
Right.
I suppose you would say I like bohemian people. I like that type of bohemian type of person.
All right, but what do you mean by I'm a cold person? You don't strike me as... What do you mean? When it comes to really giving of yourself?
No, when it comes to working out what's got to be done, the separation of business and pleasure, the separation, making a distinction between a bond, a friendship that was very close and an acquaintance that was fun, someone that you love to be around and have a crack with, say once a fortnight. I'm very, very private about no one knows my troubles, no one knows my business, like all my family things. I mean, Gabriel must ask me a dozen times to go and talk about that. Fuck off. You know?
Your family situation?
Yeah, or anything like that. Any of my private business, no one knows anything. You never see me in the Terry King column, you know, or any other column like that.
Right.
So I'm cold about that, and I'm quite ruthless in my friendships too.
But is that calculated and manipulative in your...
It's not manipulative. No, it's calculated though.
Right.
It's
calculated to use?
no, absolutely not. I think friendship is for mutual pleasure. But I'm not a kind of mindlessly jolly, passionate guy. You know, I'm a tough fucker, and I'm a tough fucker in work. I have to be.
Were you always that protective about your emotional core?
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah.
Going right back to childhood?
Yeah.
Why?